Hi everybody, you're listening to the Hisessions Hawaii podcast where we talk about everything local and beyond. I'm John Yamasato, your host, and joining me today is Kyle Shimabukuro.
That's it.
And David Kusumoto. That's interesting. Thanks, Dave, for being here. Actually, Devon is coming. He's going to be running late, so Dave will step out when Devon gets here.
Tag team.
Yeah, tag team it. Yeah. Before we begin, let me remind of our listeners the ways they can stay in touch with the show. There's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Hisessions. You can go to SoundCloud, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts to listen to the podcast. And finally, you can email us at hisessions@yahoo.com. If you'd like to help the show, get more music on the channel, you can go to patreon.com and donate. There you'll get more involved with the show, all that stuff. No new patrons this week, but we've had a few in the last few weeks, so I feel pretty good about that.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Kupu Kupu Landscaping, Landscape Architects. You can call Kevin Yokomura, 808-722-8685 for a free estimate, or go to kupukupulandscaping.com. Also, thank you to Fort Ruger Market. I got to eat poke this week.
So ono.
Kyle and I have been on a no fish diet lately, but I went to get my blood test, so we'll see next week.
I pounded poke today.
You did?
Yeah.
You know, if it once in a while, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
And you can find Devon, Kumu94.7, and Kyle at highlifeclothing.com. Without further ado, would like to introduce our guests today. So Shawn Yacavone is with Ukulele Friend. He's been on the show before to talk about the history of the ukulele, things of that nature. And Dr. Adam Jansen is on our show. Wait, Jansen, right?
Jansen. That is correct.
Okay, he's a state archivist, and they are both part of the Hawaiian Music Archives at the Hawaii State Archives Initiative. And thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Oh, I'm just excited to be here.
You know, with these type of guests, I never know what to expect. But, man, just talking in the lobby, super interesting conversations. I'm pretty excited about where we're going with this. Okay, Shawn, why don't you update us first on what you've been up to? Because this is all part of... You're involved with this, so I want you to kind of start us off here.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, us, and it's a really exciting initiative. Really, it's a community-based initiative. You know, when I think about the history of the ukulele, and I mentioned this before, it came about as a community of people, right? And so it was the Madeirans that brought the parent instruments to Hawaii. It was the Hawaiians and the Portuguese that were built the first. That popularized the instrument. But you also have these historical makers and musicians all throughout time when we look back that are Filipino, that are Japanese, that are Hawaiian, Portuguese, all these different ethnic backgrounds. And so to me, that instrument, how appropriate is it that instrument come from Hawaii because it was based on a community. And so from that's where my passion kind of lies. I'm a local boy from Hawaii, Filipino, Italian, but I speak Japanese. And so, to me,
I forgot.
Right,
that's bilingual. Yeah, that's right.
But that's the ukulele. And, if we go around this room, I'm sure we'd just, come across many different ethnicities as well. And so, for this project being a community-based project, I think it's so important that for us as a community to move this forward. Some of the things that have been happening is that, I'll let Adam share a little bit on the historical side, but some of the things that I've been involved in per se is just raising awareness to talk about what is the Hawaiian Music Archives, why is it important to our community, and why and how can people participate in this? Because if it is truly a community-based effort, what does that effort look like? And how can people be involved? And so we've been partnering in many different ways to kind of spread and share that message, and to be able to do so here is exciting for us as well.
So Dr. Adam, are you the founder of the Hawaiian Music Archives, or are you? What is your history coming into this?
Let me back up a little bit and explain to you what the Hawaii State Archives is.
Yeah, okay.
We were founded in 1905 to, quote, collect the public archives.
So you were not the founder?
I would... Definitely not the founder of the State Archives, as it's referred to now. But over the past century, we'd wound up acquiring quite a lot of interesting music-related materials that weren't necessarily labeled as such. They were in other people's collections, and they were labeled as the so-and-so manuscript collection, and you didn't know within that there was this incredible treasure trove of historic mele that unless you knew, you didn't know. And what really started us down this path was when Kylan Reese, the executive director of the Kealakai Center for Pacific Strings and noted Hawaiian music historian, was in the archives, and I was walking by and I heard him mention to one of my staff, yeah, I'm here trying to research how the ukulele saved Martin guitar during the Great Depression. And I'm thinking, we're the state archives. We don't have anything on this. And I couldn't have been more wrong. I mean, Kylan, with his diligence, really uncovered an incredible amount of music-related materials. But seeing the difficulty and the amount of time it took him to do that, I'm like, we should probably do a little better with this. And having talked with Shawn, the idea was we're not starting up a new archives. We're reframing what we do have. And so in that way, as Shawn mentioned, it was the community that was the genesis of this Hawaiian Music Archives initiative, trying to better fulfill their needs by giving them an easier access point into this incredibly rich and deep musical heritage that we've been preserving for 100 years.
Yeah, you think about different states. Hawaii is unique in that we have this, I shouldn't say unique, because a lot of the states have their own, music types and things like that. But we're one of the few states that has their own music awards, for their type of music. And, we have a lineage that goes back before America, basically, right? So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, wait, how did you, sorry, you may have said this, but how did you two hook up then?
We were brothers in a previous life.
Because Shawn came on a while ago and just blew us away with his knowledge of the ukulele. And I guess another question that I would have is, how does one, it's funny because they say there's an expert for everything, right? You can think of anything all the way down to marbles. And there's someone out there that just loves marbles and just knows everything about marbles, But how do you, as an archivist, and how do you get into this role?
So to make a short story long.
Basically, it's a good job for Kyle.
Well, hey, come on over. We're always looking for volunteers.
Kyle is always looking for
I mean, look at all this stuff.
Yeah. He likes the history and the things, So okay, so sorry, I cut you off.
No worries. It was out of necessity, and I think it was really truly fate, because Harry B. of Territorial Airwaves several years ago was looking at all the memory institutions in Hawaii, museums, libraries, archives, for a place to deposit his material so that it could be accessible to the public. And for his own reasons, he chose us as the Public Archives of Hawaii as the place he wanted to leave his legacy. When word of that got out, Andy Andrews, who was one of the big players in the Ukulele Club of Santa Cruz back on the continent, called us and said, hey, I taught ukulele for 40 years. I have 120 ukulele, 12 boxes of sheet music. Gosh. It's just sitting in storage. I'd like to give it to you. And I'm like, great, that's fabulous. What am I going to do with 120 ukulele? I don't play. I don't understand. And so I had all of this. I don't know if it's common, if it's rare, if it's worth fixing. And it just so happened that Kylan, who kind of started the whole genesis of this, said, I know who you need to talk to. We happen to have one of the experts on ukulele just down the block.
So when you did meet Shawn for the first time and he goes, I can show you stuff. Well, did you just get blown away when you seen what he collected?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because he never says this himself, but he is an archivist as well. Yeah. Preserving this history. And I really resonated with his focus of this really needs to be here in Hawaii, repatriate all these objects that have scattered across the globe, and it needs to be done in a way that the public can enjoy it. Because there's so many collectors out there that go after these really rare, one of, only known, finest copy, and then they lock it away in their private treasure troves and never to be seen again. But it was his outward-facing mission that really helped convince us that, all of these Andy Andrews ukulele that came in, why are we not allowing people to play them? You can come into the archives and we let you look at original photographs from 1880. We let you look at writings of the mo'i, the kings of Hawaii. I can buy more ukulele on Reverb tomorrow. So the whole concept of taking these and putting them behind glass, like in a museum, is really a disservice because it robs the instruments of their voice. The thing that they were meant to be suddenly stops to be.
Right.
Is there any that deserve to be in the case though, just to preserve it from getting dropped or accidentally damaged?
Sure. I mean, first of all, we're creating an advisory council specifically that will help us address how to care for these things, because it's not only about our generation and education that can happen now. We are also responsible. We're the caretakers of these instruments so that people 100, 200, 500 years from now will also have access to certain pieces. Now, there are duplicates in the collection, but there are also one-offs that are from original, the original three makers. There are also instruments out there that have direct connection to the Hawaiian monarchy. And so the advisory council that we're assembling basically will help us create the guidelines by which people can access. What can the general public access? What can musicians access? And what are those thresholds by which we can afford education, but also that we can ensure that in perpetuity that we are forward thinking and allowing access for future generations and not only the current one.
Yeah, because I remember you bringing in some artifacts in here that I was afraid to touch. And when I held it, I was like shaking almost, because like this is such history and it's so important that I was wondering, how is this going to be protected when from just the general public coming in and going, oh, that's the first ukulele. Oh, jam, Carl Cradle Boy surf on it. There's certain ways to protect that kind of things, right?
And this is where that community comes in. I am not qualified to make that answer myself in a vacuum. So we are reaching out to academics, to well-established musicians, to researchers, to members of the public, to manufacturers, to say, please help us. Because what we're attempting here, to our knowledge, has not been replicated anywhere else in the world, allowing public access to vintage instruments. But as Shawn said, we have to do this in a way that's responsible to future generations.
Yeah.
Because it's difficult to preserve and make accessible.
Yeah.
And so where is that balance? So that, okay, maybe the first ukulele, that goes in a case.
Yeah.
And it stays there so that we know we will always have it.
Or you could have a video of Jake playing something with it to hear the tone and the sound of how it's played, and then archive that picture so people can see him playing that and put it away.
If only we had a community partner that had a state-of-the-art studio.
But aren't you building a studio though?
So, there is a sound booth that's being installed within the next week or so at the Hawaii State Archives on the ground floor, and that is for the public. The collection we have been partnering with, there are many different partners. So as Adam mentioned, there are partners that are in the advisory council from the academic space. So there is a bachelor's degree in ukulele offered at the University of Milan in Italy. And the faculty there, PhD in music, is focusing on the ukulele, but he is one that we are partnering with the University of Surrey in the UK, and there are a couple others. So we have this community of people around the world that are a part of this effort. Now that being said, the sound booth is something that is for obviously those that are here or those that are even coming to do research, because the vision of that is to be able to come into the state archives, business hours, right? So weekdays, be able to call down a historical instrument that has already been determined, which track it's on, available to the public, available to musicians or whoever, whatever that might be, and then be able to go into this sound booth and record. One of the things that I learned through the experience of having people, like John and others come in to my space to play on these historical instruments is that I'm not a musician, I'm not a builder, but I can see a conversation that's happening between the instrument and the musician. Yeah. And the instrument actually reaches into the soul of that person and touches them and leaves them in a different way. We have to afford that opportunity to musicians here to be able to allow that next generation of musicians, but also composers and builders, right? And so all of these different aspects to come into the archives and leave changed, right? It's an access point by which people can come in and touch and feel and hear and smell history and leave changed for the benefit of the next generation.
Because you already archived a bunch of videos with known musicians playing these instruments. Is that some of the stuff that's actually going to be used in this archive that you guys are building now?
Well, I mean, yeah, I do that on the ukulele friend side more just, in a kind of a safe space and to afford select musicians. Can't do this with everyone, an opportunity. But the long-term vision absolutely is to get all of these experiences recorded, documented, and be able to have that available in perpetuity at the Hawaiian Music Archives. Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a quick break. I'm going to keep rolling, but I'm going to cut here because Devon just walked in the door. I could hear him. And we're back. All right, okay. Devon has appeared.
Magically appeared.
Out of nowhere.
Out of
All right.
nowhere, yeah. Like did the Star Trek
I miss Dave.
teleporting thing. I don't know, Dave could be in here. I was fine. If you want to keep Dave, keep Dave. He actually knows more about the stuff you're talking about than me. I'm
That is actually kind of true, but it's okay.
That's why. I'm like, what the hell?
But it's all right. So we just to catch Devon up, we were talking about the Hawaiian Music Archives and all these amazing instruments and pieces and melee and that they have down there and what they're going to do with it. I'll ask Dr. Adam, you talked a little bit about incorporating AI into the archiving of these things, which I thought was pretty interesting because now you have something old and something new and merging them together. And you sound like a very intelligent guy, and so you had a lot of big words thrown around there with the AI stuff. And
that old doctor
Boy,
thing.
do I have you fooled.
But yeah, maybe you can jump in there.
Yeah, absolutely. We are doing some exploratory research into what the current state of the art on artificial intelligence is. Specifically, looking at ways that the average public who doesn't know anything about any of this can have increased accessibility and discoverability of all of this content, right? So at the archives, we have 14,000 boxes of records. Our music collection between Uncle Harry, Michael Scott out of Toronto, Canada, and now the Malcolm Rockwell collection exceeds, we estimate, about 26,000 phonographic records.
Wow.
How do you find stuff? So we're trying to explore ways that we can use natural language to say, show me any record that has Sol Ho'opi'i playing on a Decca label. And rather than having to click boxes and do all this, you just talk, ask questions. The difficulty is it works much, much better when it's either video, audio, or typed. Some of the older mele we have, for instance, date to the mid to late 19th century. It's all handwritten. Not quite so good. But we are going to continue to explore. We're going to use some of the computer vision to describe photographs that we just have kailua. Okay,
Right.
well, that's not very helpful. But now it's going to look in and say, oh, beach, canoe, palm trees, and if it's Waikiki, diamond head, because these are really recognizable objects. So now if you're looking for a photo, you can say, show me any photos that you have that have diamond head and a beach. And it's going to look through it and say, oh, here you go.
Has any other archives or museum currently used this type of technology to find things like that?
I haven't really seen any wide-scale implementations, but I'm doing this under the auspices of a research project out of the University of British Columbia. And we have 154 researchers from all over the globe, many of which are university-embedded AI scientists and public institutions, also with the same struggle. And so we don't have anything, I don't foresee anything in the next few years, but we're going to continue to do this research because it is so important to connect people to their documentary heritage, to be able to allow them to find these mele about the valley that they grew up in. How else do you do that? It's the Kylan problem. You come in, I've got 14,000 boxes to look through to try and find that needle in the haystack.
But you still have to organize the 14,000 boxes physically. What do you do for the phonographic records and even like the CDs and cassette tapes especially? Do you digitize them? Because those over time will then degrade, right?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you asked that because we are about to launch a volunteer-oriented project. Again, it takes a community to do this. I don't have staff to digitize all of these music records. That Edison cylinders, wire recordings, quarter-inch, cassettes, DATs, we're doing it all. And it's all because people come in Monday through Friday to help volunteer to do this. And we just signed a licensing agreement with the discography on Hawaiian and Hawaiian guitar music, where we're going to have full rights to all of the metadata they've created, which is where was it recorded, when was it recorded, who were the artists in the band, what were the titles, what were the labels.
I have a cassette tape of Pure Heart at the Hilo Ho'olalea in like 1999.
Huh?
And I have stuff on mini disc. Remember mini disc?
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, the heck am I gonna do with this? You know, I still have it,
Well,
but
you can make a live concert album with that
but
thing.
what
if you change
mini
it over.
disc? Nobody even has mini disc player anymore.
They have
Like,
a
at
mini
least
disc
the-
player.
That's
Really?
what archives exist
Yeah.
for.
Dang.
Rob,
Okay.
we have Edison cylinder players.
Yeah, I guess so. That's crazy. Because
That is
even like I
crazy.
called my friend Mikey G. I'm like, yeah, I want to get this tape digitized. He's like, you got a tape player? I'm like, no. It's like, well, I can do it if I get a tape player.
Get one in the front of our.
But it has to have
system.
an out, right?
Yeah.
It can't just be any tape player.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So you guys, oh man, I
I got a Betamax in my car. You want to borrow that?
You still got the Betamax in your car.
And
Why
the
do you have
VHS.
a bit?
Why you keep leaving it in there? Why you
Because
take
I
it
keep
out?
thinking at some point in time somebody's either gonna need it or want it, and then I'll actually get rid of it.
You
but I
need a
feel-
Betamax.
You're now my best friend.
There you go.
You can have them today if you want them. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why originally did you even have that thing?
It was being thrown away, and I was like, because doing theater, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's archived on that
Everything's
kind of stuff.
no. Not only that, but if you're doing a show that took place in the 80s,
Yeah.
people have Betamax, so you can say,
Oh.
"Oh, I have a Betamax player or a VHS player." But also, you're gonna run into people who are doing archiving of stuff, and they go, "We don't have a Betamax," and I go, "You know, I actually happen to have one of those, and it actually works." Yep.
just
So
weird that-
right out of the trunk.
It's just weird that it's been sitting in your car for this long with your Kikaira
it's
doll
only
and
been
all
like
that
a
other stuff.
well, the
Yeah.
Kikaira doll you can't have, but
Well, that's stolen, right?
No, they did not
they
take
stole
the-
everything but the
Oh, yeah,
Kamen Rider
that's right.
doll.
That-
Yeah,
and the
which is
Betamax.
fine.
And the
And the Betamax and the VHS. So they left those things because they didn't know what to do with them. So,
Yeah, they probably.
I'm
what
okay
is
with it.
what is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's leave it behind.
It's like I wish I'd made the car stick shift because then they really wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to do anything
Yeah.
with the car. But yeah. Sorry. Anyway.
Anyway,
we
I had a
digress.
question.
Okay.
So, is there any modern day things that you have displayed there? I mean, like modern day meaning, like, do you have something like historical, like Brother Iz's ukulele or something like that?
wish. Oh.
Is that things that you guys want to attain
Well,
eventually? Is that kind of
I
thing?
I would give my firstborn for that.
Yeah.
Easily. It's a fair trade straight across the board.
So we, through this process, we've been meeting some amazing people in the community because,
Yeah.
like we said, this is a community-based initiative, and so we don't know what is even out there, right? And so we've been reaching out to sharing the story and looking for partners, community partners, basically, and some of those partners are the families in the community that are either directly connected to maybe some of these musicians, or they are the caretakers of certain instruments. For example,
Yeah.
we know of someone who approached us at one of the events that has Lena Machado's ukulele, person ukulele, and for some people that of course we want these stories to continue to live on, and if we can figure out a way of how to get that into the state archives, that's the safe place, right?
Can some people not necessarily donate it, but leave it for a certain period of time for people to come and visit it and stuff like that?
Depending on what the parameters are, if it's like long-term, kind
Yeah.
of semi-permanent, but it's still owned by the family, we absolutely would entertain that.
Yeah.
Because part of our vision is to make sure that the mana contained in those instruments continues to live on
Yeah.
and can be appreciated by the public, to the point where we're hoping to stage benefit concerts. And if it is, Brother Iz's ukulele, he's now back on stage performing, right? It's not in somebody's closet where
Yeah.
that a small group of people get to appreciate. Entire audiences
Yeah.
will be able to appreciate it for generations.
I mean, I would love to go to a museum with a showing of like Iz's ukulele and DJ Pratt's electric guitar
Yeah.
and Peter Moon's stuff,
Absolutely.
and it would be amazing to see,
Yeah, you could, because you could get Malani's guitar,
Yeah.
Uncle John's, Maka Hassan's, his,
You could get
his
Mackey's
bass,
guitar.
his stand-up bass. Yeah, be cool.
It'd be unreal.
It's about ensuring that those individuals and their legacies still live in people's minds and hearts, not just their memories. To be able to see it is to interact with them.
Yeah.
And we're also kind of overlooking, I should say, that one of the obvious things about this too is that the Hawaii State Archives, for those of you who don't know where that is, it's on Iolani Palace grounds, very sacred grounds. But the music was so, dear to the Hawaiian monarchs that how appropriate is it that these musical items would also be available on the palace grounds? That being said, it's a 2-story building that is from the outside doesn't look like anything special, but in terms of infrastructure, I mean, it's basically a large bank vault. Yeah. And with climate control, has the most state-of-the-art fire suppression and everything else. So when you think about community members, I'm concerned about, is this going to be on a ground floor and with just behind glass, and somebody goes home at the end of the day? Well, it's on Iolani Palace grounds. There's security there all the time. It has the state-of-the-art fire suppression. It has all of these things, climate control. Nothing goes in there just walking in. It even has to go through this kind of screening process to make sure that there are no bugs and anything of that sort, right?
I have a question for you, Shawn. I mean, especially for you, because when you first ever visited that place and you walked in and you seen all these historical things, especially being a collector and a historian yourself, I mean, did you get chicken skin? Was it an incredible experience? What was it like? I
mean, it's an amazing experience. I remember when Adam took me there and showed me some, the Queen's handwritten ala'oi. And you're looking at the document that the Queen had written herself, and you want to step back because of what you're looking at and just being in the presence of that document. And every time I go down there, the same type of emotion hits me. It doesn't matter how many times you have seen these early ukulele or these documents or the negatives of these photos that were taken in early Hawaii, whatever it might be, it moves you and it impacts you and it changes you. And that's the exciting thing about this, because it already is accessible to the community. A lot of people don't know that they can just walk in without an appointment to go to Hawaii State Archives and look up some amazing things. But now, inclusive in that mission is really Hawaiian music and music history, which includes not only instruments, and it's not, we're creating a string research library, and we're looking, so the historical instruments that are in there now, we have community partners that are helping us to repair some of the instruments to playable order, but everything pre-1946 we're using genuine gut strings. And so this will be as accurate of a sound of that instrument, whether it's Hawaiian Kingdom era or up to 1946 as can be. 47 to roughly 2000 nylon strings, and post that time we're going to be using fluorocarbon, more contemporary materials that you see on instruments being used now. And so to answer your question, there's so much to see there and so much to learn. That it really is a treasure trove that you can spend hours on end, if not months and years on end, researching, enjoying. But we want you to leave changed, So if that means just coming in, looking at one document or hearing one recording, so be it. Come in, listen, and if it's just seeing the instruments, we want to inspire builders too. So we have forms in there of how to build ukulele from some really prominent builders. We also have new ukulele from some of the top, we're working with some builders that are some of the most highly regarded custom ukulele builders in the world, and they are participating in this as well. And we'll be, without sharing any names at this point, we'll be updating people on the Facebook, I've been updating under my name, but all of these things will be coming out.
So not only current local builders here, but builders around the world.
Around the world.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's part of what we want to do is we want to show just how beloved ukulele is across the world. And this is the Hawaiian Music Archives. So it's not just ukulele, as Shawn said. It's really all things Hawaiian music related, whether it's slack key, steel, ukulele, forms, strings, sheet music, everything. But ukulele is one of those things that, well, first off, it's the official state Awana instrument, right? And where can you go to learn more about it? Yeah. So we felt it really is well past time to do this. And so that's where we're starting. If this model proves to be well received, We will continue to expand out. We've already had some discussions with some collectors that do steel guitar and slack key, and if we can execute and continue to get the community involved in this, we're more than willing to expand out and include other types of instruments as well.
Where does all the funding for this come from? Is it government, federal? It couldn't be federal. It's got to be state funding.
State archives. So
Fortunately, a large part of this has been public donations. Just say, like Uncle Harry. His 10,000 plus record collection, he felt so passionately that this needed to be in the public domain that he said, please take this. Andy, the same. I flew out to his place on the Big Island to help pack it, and Hawaiian Airlines shipped it over for us.
wow.
But for us, that's why it has to be community driven. I don't really have a budget to do this. I've kind of scraped some funds together.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and that is really because of all of you. It's because of the passion and the belief in that it's well past time that we have something like this. As people start to find out, I'm invited onto their podcast to help share it. Somebody's going to hear this and go, oh yeah, I got in the closet. I wonder if they want. And I've been doing archiving for over 25 years. And all of the projects I've worked on cumulatively in that time doesn't match half the energy that this project has taken on over the last, 12, 18 months. And we haven't even officially launched
It's only been
yet.
12 or 18 months.
Yeah.
Really?
That's
with no budget.
that's just how passionate, the public is in this.
I have a
Question?
question to ask you, but I know
You
it
can
sounds...
just do the
Oh,
question.
it might be
Brian.
stupid, but I have to ask this
Oh, boy.
question.
No stupid questions, only the ones unanswered.
What is-
Oh, just wait.
What is... Yeah,
Never been on this
might be,
podcast.
this might be good. But, is there a difference between archive and museum? Like, what is the definition of that?
And I thank you for asking that, because
Good question, Kyle.
Oh, thank
that
you.
is an
Excellent.
Thank you.
that is an excellent question. You are the top student, front of the class.
Thank you very much.
He's never heard that.
I was gonna
before.
say,
I
I've never heard
guarantee you that.
I heard you going on detention. You better start pulling weeds.
To oversimplify the entire answer at the risk of offending some of my museum friends, the difference is accessibility. Museums will curate a display where they will select certain things to present to the public.
Yes.
And that typically represents about 2% of their holdings.
Like Bishop Museum, right?
Yeah.
You
The
go in
average-
and
We
see
went
it.
behind before and
Yeah.
saw
The,
stuff.
the
Yeah.
average person cannot say, oh, I want to see the rest of this.
Oh.
The archives is the opposite. Particularly us as the public archives, everything we have is publicly accessible. You just need to walk in. Some things are so important, so delicate, you can't handle them. My staff does it. But it's all on your behalf. It's in the public trust, so you can come in and see it. And so I think part of the success of what we're trying to do is we're actually approaching what is traditionally a museum area from an archival perspective.
Got it.
That we want the public to be able to have access to everything in the collection, not just the pretty things behind glass.
Yeah.
And so since we're approaching it from that perspective, as Shawn said, if we have duplicates, we might take the nicer of the two to put in a display cabinet, knowing that if you wanted to see it, the sister is upstairs in the vault, and we will bring it down for you.
Okay, an offshoot of that then. As over the years, people have gotten very precious with stuff, with things that are related to Hawaii. I think there's a sense of ownership from people, and I'm trying to word this in a way that doesn't insult anybody, because that's not really the point of this. But I worry that somebody's going to walk in and say, "Oh, that letter that's supposed to be ours, because it's the Hawaiian people," that kind of thing. And I worry that sort of thing will happen. And again, I'm not trying to stir up problems or anything. But I worry that that's going to be an issue. Is there
Intellectual property issue then?
Yeah, that kind of intellectual property, but I think also too, as you were saying, the items that you have hold such a deep place in people's hearts. It's almost a sense of this belongs to me in a way that I do not necessarily want people to share. When you talk about Queen Liliuokalani and Aloha Oi, I cannot imagine, right? Because you guys are, and I love the fact that you're like, hey, everybody come check them out, come view it, because this way it continues to live on. But not everybody necessarily has that.
I'm glad you use that as an example, because Her Majesty is the driver to why we are so passionate about what we do, because we have Her Majesty's manuscript collection that she deposited in the public archives, that she felt so passionately about, that she wanted everybody to have access to her diaries, her innermost thoughts, her personal writings, her correspondence. And so for us, we would counter that argument by saying this belongs to everybody. No one person should control access, that everybody should have equal accessibility to be able to read and interpret and use as their heart best determines.
Well, I think it also enables people outside of maybe the common experience, like some tourist coming in from Nebraska who goes and sees that, and hopefully that aspect of it will hit them as much as it hits us. I think it's one of the interesting things about living here is you get people who come here to live, but they come here to live and this is their paradise and they want to be here. And then they go, okay, this is ours. Nobody else come. We're good. And I think what's unusual about the archives, as you were speaking about, is that it's about opening it up so that people get that feeling from it and then take it with them and perpetuate it. Because if we don't do that, then it becomes this thing that's
only belongs to a certain...
or that, like you were saying, with allowing people to play the instruments, it allows them to feel the mana that's within these things, and hopefully it gives them enough. Some of it rubs off on them enough that they go, oh, this is amazing, and we should share this with other people. Because that's always been the Hawaiian way, right? It's always been, what's mine is yours. So
and that's an excellent example. We want to make sure that we have that equity and equality, that it's not an elite strata of society that gets to determine because they can afford these precious gifts and they lock them up. That everybody, regardless of status, education, physical ability to travel, we're going to digitize as much as we can so everybody around the globe can experience that for themselves.
What I love about this initiative too is that it sits solely on the character and just the quality of the people that we know in our lives here. Who we are being from Hawaii or living in Hawaii is directly reflective in our own, of course, our belief system, but also education and access to education, right? And so what I love about this initiative is it's the platform by which we can look backwards to celebrate all of our kupuna. We can look at and whether that kupuna are musicians or maybe manufacturers, whether they are retail store owners that were associated with selling the instruments, whether they are composers, whether they are the instrument makers themselves, the original three or whoever, we can look back at every one of those stories and celebrate all the kupuna that came before us. The other thing that's really exciting to me about this is that, in my opinion, for us here in Hawaii, it's different. When I speak to people outside of Hawaii, I generally talk about opportunities. We have an opportunity to participate in the Hawaiian Music Archives. For us here in Hawaii, it's deeper than that. For us here in Hawaii, we have a kuleana. We have a responsibility to the next generation. And so the same information that we're compiling here as a community and that we're sharing through access and education is for that next generation and generations to come, because that is our responsibility. And that is what sits with, ever since, because we joke around this, but we've all been there where you go to Tutu's house and they say, don't touch Tutu's ukulele, right? Don't touch Tutu's ukulele, right? As little kids. But there does come a point there does come a point when you get handed that instrument,
Yeah.
you play, and that's entrusted to you, and you realize the gravity of that experience. And so what we're looking at is modeling that, in essence, what we're already doing in our own kind of microcosm worlds, and saying this is what we can do for the community, how we can perpetuate this for generations to come.
And once the kids figure out that TikTok is not the only place where you can discover music, they will come back to it, right?
See, this is why I love this guy. I've been talking to him about this for over a year, and I still get chicken skin when he talks about it, because he believes it so passionately, and the implications of what it means to society as a whole is just awe-inspiring and breathtaking.
Yeah. You know, I was in fact I was with Devon. We're in Seattle last year, right? And I got to see the Rock and Roll Museum. And in that Rock and Roll Museum was the Nirvana short tour visit of all his memorabilia and stuff like that. And then, you know, you walking around and you see Kurt Cobain's guitar and his sweater or a concert flyer, and you go, oh, that is so heavy, you know, to look at. Then you start thinking, Hawaii has the same kind of importance with different musicians, you know, and certain musicians. That's what I want to see too. Because when I walk there, I got chicken skin. But if I walk into something like that here, oh my God, it means so much more, you know?
Absolutely. And it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland that really is kind of my vision for where, personally, I would like to see this go if the fates grant us the ability to have display space. You know, just a few curated things that maybe on a rotating display that, you know, here is the clothing that they wore when they performed on this date, and here's a photo. Because again, you're meeting that person through, you know, the mana in their objects that they leave for us to inspire the next generation.
Yeah.
And I think as we get more into the digital world, it'll be even more important for you know, it's funny because everything's becoming digital, but it's going to leave physical things to be more important, right?
Yeah.
More valuable.
Yeah, and one of the things, by the way, and thanks for raising that, John, too, because one of the discussions we've been having is, well, thanks to generosity of Hisessions as well, to Dave and John, but there was that benefit concert for the Maui Fires last year that they put together, and that's right.
There all day.
Evan was there the whole time.
So was John, and so was
Right.
Dave. So.
But, you know, that was so important, you know, certainly an opportunity for the musicians to be able to contribute back and for the community to contribute back. But Adam came up with the idea and said, you know, we need to capture that. Can you talk to them and see if we can receive that footage as part of the archives, as a donation to the archives, to look at how was the community rallying around the recovery effort specifically. And so all of that footage now resides, thanks to Hisessions, over at this Hawaiian Music Archives.
Yeah.
Really?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, Dev, you can be forever locked
Oh,
in to
man.
a
I know, I
video
should have worn
forever.
better clothes and brushed my hair.
Yeah.
Generations to come,
Yeah.
they're
Lord.
going to look and go, whoa, that
I
was in
think I would have
style?
been there if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah.
Oh, John.
Yeah.
Can I? Did you do the thing that I normally do, which is stop you guys and?
Yeah.
Okay.
We started from the beginning.
Okay, cool. Because
Yeah, we did.
sometimes you know,
Yeah,
you
I
just jump
know.
into the thing,
Yeah.
and then I go, Doc is really cool, but I don't even know him at all. So okay, I'll wait till after we pow and then I'll get all that.
I've met these two long enough. I know it's like herding cats at times. Right?
Yeah. So, but you know, we have a few minutes left, so I do want to get into the AI discussion because I found that super interesting over
Where's
lunch.
Dave?
Yeah, Dave
But-
should come back.
yeah,
on
Dave
that
should
one.
come
I'll,
back.
I'll be back.
Okay,
guys
you can
continue.
tell him, but okay.
Shift change.
So Dr. Adam, you work in the digital space, even though you're curating old things, but you kind of like an old and new guy. But where do you see things going? Because it's 2 years ago, we were sitting in this very room. Kusamoto came down and said, "Hey guys, there's this thing called ChatGPT, and it's going to change the world." And this is like October when it first came out, you know. And here we are sitting 2 years later, and everybody talks about it now.
Dave was excited and I was terrified.
Well, I think everybody would have a sense of like, okay, well, we'll see where this goes, you know.
Yeah.
But you do work in that space too. Like
I have to.
Yeah.
And part of that is my formal education is in archival theory. And so as part of that graduate program, I took classes in how to make paper. Because how do you preserve paper if you don't know its structural components and what affects it? And out of that program, my very first job was working at Microsoft. And I was told,
really?
here, Visual Basic's hitting 25, archive all of the source code. How do you archive source code? At the time, they literally printed it all out on green bar paper and shoved it in boxes. And that got, so I had no choice. I had to learn tech because there was no question the world was shifting.
Yeah.
And I think part of the trepidation around AI is because it is such a big unknown that we don't know what it's capable of, what its limitations are, how it's being applied. And so I started in that research of what could it do for us ethically, responsibly, authentically. There are ways that we can leverage it in order to increase discoverability, because there's no question you all are content producers of Hawaiian music related material. You're doing it digitally. So if we're going to preserve this and have it available in 100 years, like we have Her Majesty's manuscript collection, we have to preserve the digital.
Well, and you brought it as a good point, because I think like everybody here, probably, I have hard drives upon hard drives full of digital stuff, not labeled correctly. You know, like Rick and Morty has a good running joke about that. But yeah, we got to.
Would you like me to answer that? Okay.
How do you because like I have probably 20,000 pictures of my kids, and then so I have this thing where my son, I have him yawning playing baseball, because you know he's standing out in the outfield, you know, so every year I catch him yawning, and I have this ongoing
Seriously?
of pictures of him yawning.
That's
you know, standing
classic.
out in the outfield
Yeah, yeah.
as he gets older, right?
Yeah.
But at a certain point I'm like, damn it, that's one picture out of 20,000 I got to go find, right? But so the AI is going to be able to help us find those kind of stuff.
That's exactly what we're looking at. It is how can we increase discoverability and accessibility of all of this vast material? Because it's digital, you're not limited to 36 photos on a roll of film. So you're much less careful about, okay, I got to make sure composition's exactly right, the light, the settings, the framing. Okay, now take. You're like, oh, phone? Oh, hey, food. And you take 10 photos of the same plate of food.
Yeah.
And nobody deletes anything. So we're being deluged with information. The saying is we've produced more written, knowledgeable content over the last 10 years than we have in all of recorded history up to that point. And I would argue we've produced more in the last 2 years because it's just increasing. So we can't just keep all of this stuff. So we have to find something to be able to sort it out, because we can't throw people at it. So we're going to leverage what machine learning we can within our own little scope of the universe to make it easier to find. And that's really the extent of what we're trying to do.
And just take this podcast, for example. We're almost to 200 podcasts. And if you go like, hey, remember that time we talked to this one person about...
We do that now.
Yeah. And it's like...
Nobody knows.
Forget it. Like, there's no way we're going to find it, because... Or find the original file so I can re-edit it or something like that. Because I didn't... It's not like I go through and rename everything and organize it perfectly and put it in these folders. It's just right?
Well,
we don't do that
You're too lazy.
for high sessions too, right?
If you were to donate that material to the Hawaii State Archives for permanent preservation, we could use our AI tools to help increase discoverability and accessibility of High Sessions podcasts.
We could donate all our podcast episodes to you, but I'm afraid that the future will look at these three idiots that talk every week. Why was these guys archived?
Why? Why would you archive this?
That's true.
Yeah, scary.
Well, and I was going to say this to the very end, but that could be because, you know, you were determined by the Hawaiian Music Archives to, and I'm reading off of a certificate that we have here in our hands for those of you listening at home, that the Hawaiian Music Archives at the Hawaii State Archives gratefully recognizes High Sessions for extraordinary contributions to the advancement of education and research in Hawaiian music, culture, and history on this 30th day of April, 2024.
Oh, it's dated. Hey.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
So I gratefully present this to you for everything you have already done and sent into the archives. And
Congratulations, you guys.
Well,
that's
I think
awesome.
Genghis
That's awesome.
thanks you. The cat.
Genghis the cat. He was actually on the he's part of history.
Archives, yeah.
He's
Part of the
archived in the show.
You know, when we did start this channel, part of the goal was to archive some of the artists and stuff like that. So we did take that seriously, right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, well,
Yeah.
my question, I don't know what I missed, but who else is archiving and documenting music other than what you guys are doing?
Given that we haven't officially launched the project yet, you would kind of be the first. In fact, with your donation from the Maui benefit, technically you are the first.
But is there other organizations like Hara? Do they archive performances?
Not with us. So and the definition of archiving, from my perspective, is very different than what others do. If you just collect stuff, you're a repository. You're not an archives. Unless you have a forward migration strategy in place with funding to back it, you're just holding on to bunch of
I think the
beta
difference-
tapes,
Yeah.
hoping somebody has a machine in their trunk.
Right.
Because I think Hara probably has all of the Hoku awards, right? Which is very good historical documents, but it's not accessible to
yeah.
the public. Yeah,
Yeah,
so that's the
yeah.
difference, right?
And I think that's so that's really exciting too, is with, for example, like with the Hisessions podcast alone, you have so many amazing people and from all different walks of life, but certainly there's a focus on music, obviously, and somebody could, with this technology, do a search on so-and-so and come across early conversations on their thought process. How are they creating music? What are they doing? Things that you don't capture up on stage, maybe, in that short snippet of when they're receiving an award. You're already having those people come through here at Hisessions, and to be able to afford generations down the road access to those materials gives them insights and education in a different space.
And
And I
not
think is
only-
really exciting.
Not only that Maui concert you guys have, I mean, you got footage of like Ernie Cruz Jr. in your living room playing music, you know?
That's right.
I mean, that's historical. you
At
know?
some point, want that carpet.
That carpet. Yeah.
Hisessions carpet. They bring
Yeah.
that carpet everywhere.
That's where
And
the carpet
every-
will go if we ever
Yeah.
shut down high school.
Right?
There you go.
We'll
Yeah.
put it in the research room, and folks can continue to walk over it and remember.
There you go.
You wanted an excuse to get rid of these guitars, John, and I've been holding on to it for a long time.
Yeah.
Maybe they're the place that these.
That's
these can go,
true.
you know? These are all our guests.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fabulous.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You know,
And-
the carpet has taken on it.
Another one we're not going to give away.
From
Yeah.
my cold, dead hands.
Here lies the Hisessions carpet. It was never vacuumed. 13 years.
And Genghis is in
Yeah.
there.
Genghis's hair is on
We're
it.
gonna have to. All the guests gonna have to.
That's a
start like
lot of
fires.
mana on that carpet, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knew? I mean, that carpet was a non-thought. You know,
Yeah.
just we needed a carpet.
And now it's part of history.
Now it's part of history.
Well,
Okay.
where'd you buy the carpet from? Just to get some background on this carpet.
I don't even remember.
I think it
Ross?
was Home Depot or Costco.
It was either Home Depot or Costco. It was one of those two
Really?
places. Yeah, I don't remember where it was at this point.
If we can have, maybe Adam, you can share just in closing, because I know we only got a couple minutes left. But if you could share a little bit about how people can contribute and participate,
Yeah.
maybe that might be helpful.
Great.
I appreciate that. There's many avenues because, again, we want this to be a predominantly community-driven project. And so there's several ways you can do that. If you have anything Hawaiian related that you would like to contribute to this publicly accessible archives, please get in contact with us. You can email musicarchives, plural, at hawaii.gov or contact the Hawaii State Archives. We're always looking for volunteers. We have 10 years worth of digitization projects already on our queue, and we're constantly getting more stuff.
No, I want to reiterate that, like, if somebody wants to just donate something to you guys, but eventually get it back, that's still possible.
That,
right?
absolutely, depending on what it is. If it's a nice ukulele, we probably wouldn't want to engage in that risk. But if there's history and mana behind that, we definitely need to make sure it is preserved for future generations, and so we can negotiate with that.
Okay.
So donating, volunteering, and because we're getting at that critical mass, we're spinning up a acquisition and conservation fund. So if people actually want to monetarily contribute, we'll be able to take more of these instruments that we currently have, but there's a crack in the top, the bridge is loose, we're missing some tuner pegs. We can actually get those repaired and brought into circulation so that the public has yet even more incredible history to be able to play.
If many of us have teenage aged kids, would this be a good volunteer work for them if they have summer everybody's trying to do volunteer.
If we don't want them in the house, but we want to make sure.
Well,
they're
I'm trying to be
supervised by somebody, or-
politically correct, and yeah.
You don't have to be. This is Hisessions, man.
Because of the liability and the background checks they have to go to, typically we don't take minors without accompanying adults. But if there's a supervisor cakey relationship that they both want to come in, we could definitely figure out some way to make that work.
So you gotta go too, John.
Not a problem.
There is a training like Adam mentioned. So you can't just walk in off the street and say I want to volunteer today. They're looking for a commitment for a certain amount of time, and just work out a schedule and then be able to have people undergo the training and be able to then come in and work on things, because indexing and cataloging is a priority. And as I mentioned, the sound booth is going to be installed shortly, and so that will be then things we'll do a formal lunch. So this is before all of that's happening. So
Nice.
yeah.
So this is history.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam. Last question. This is so Sean's already answered this. So just for you. It's a music question. As we are a music channel, if you were stranded on a desert island for all of eternity and could only take 3 albums with you to listen to for the rest of your time, what 3 albums would you take with you?
Oh, good Lord.
You didn't even prep him, huh, Sean?
No, he did. He let me walk right into this.
Oh, he's in a barbershop quartet.
Well, and honestly, that's the issue. Is I'm good. I bring my own album wherever I go, because the albums themselves are really not much utility if you're on a desert island without any technology to be able to play
we'll
it.
assume that you can play.
That will give you a record player and some electricity.
That is my way of graciously
Yeah, I know.
deferring
That's
on
one way to get
answering the question.
Smooth.
So you're saying you would just bring yourself and your brain?
Oh, bruh. You hang out with me enough, I'm always singing something.
Wow.
Rarely ever on
That's-
key, but I carry the songs in my heart.
Okay.
Okay, so here, the question would be, what song would you sing first on a desert island by yourself?
SOS.
Because, until we meet again, this is what it is.
Cool.
Nice.
That was a
Well-
good answer.
I know. See, it's smart people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming in. We're gonna have more AI talk after this. Maybe we'll do an executive session or something. I don't know. But until next week, thanks everybody for tuning in to the
Take
High
care.
Sessions podcast. See you guys.